Hey, you, friends, family, and strangers. Today, we are in beautiful Dublin, Ohio, because I want to show you 3 roadside oddities, such as this. Giant statues of corn on the cob that expand an entire field. So, gather your things and let's do it. You're a loser. I'm pretty sure I've done drived past this strange roadside oddity a few times, but I've never had a chance to stop. And over the years, I've heard some murmurings of this place, and no one really seems to know why it's here. That's why there are plaques of information. Let's read some. As I read this plaque in front of me, I'll just show you me and some corn. You ready? Field of corn with Osage orange trees. Includes 109 human-sized ears of corn that stand upright in realistic row patterns. The installation symbolizes the history of the community's farming legacy and serves as a memorial to rural landscapes. Cochran of Columbus, Ohio, also intends the artwork to be playful, like a roadside attraction, inspiring awe and humor. The artwork invites us to think about where we come from and where we're heading, while maintaining a sense of joy in the present. Architectural precast concrete at the Dublin Art of Public Places Commission, 1994. See? Wouldn't lie to you. Stood here in the mud in flip-flops to be able to tell you that. Goon dick. We also have these deals. I'm going to go through and start from left to right and read them like a book. It is muddy out here. Muddy as muddy can get. Corn has been cultivated in Ohio for approximately 1,800 years. It was known to the prehistoric Native American Hopewell people from 100 to 500 AD and has grown in large quantities by the later Fort Ancient Indians, 1000 to 1550 AD. Prehistoric and historic Native Americans combined plantings of corn, beans, squash, and gourds in their fields and small garden plots. 2 important varieties of corn were northern flint corn, which had 16 to 20 rows of round kernels on long thin cobs, and southern gourd seed corn, which had short stubby ears with up to 32 rows of kernels. So the next time you meet someone who's short and stubby, just refer to them as Gordon, or rather Southern gourd seed corn. What's going on, you Southern gourd seed corn? Anyways, By the mid-1700s, Native Americans in Ohio grew great quantities of corn, often in large fields, particularly along the Scioto and Miami River valleys. It was not uncommon to see thousands of acres of cornfields. The Wyandot Indians, who are known to have camped on Indian River just north of Dublin Village, were prominent among the historic Native American cultivators of corn. Man, it is one corny video we're shooting today, boys. There's another roadside oddity here in Dublin that heavily involves Native Americans. So much so, you won't even believe it. By the way, did you know Ohio is a native word meaning the poor white man? Farming was central to the economy of this region from the time of the first European settlers in the late 1700s. Early settlers cleared land on which to live and farm, and corn was their most important crop. They grew corn in much the same way Native Americans had for centuries. Most corn was consumed by the farm families and their livestock, but some surplus corn was sold to distilleries, which were established throughout Ohio by the early 1800s. As the population grew, so did the amount of corn raised, and by 1850, Ohio led the country in corn production. Franklin County was among the top corn-producing regions in the state for many decades, and the family farms that surrounded the mercantile village of Dublin contributed to its productivity. As recently as 1965, Frantz, Rings, Sawmill, Case, Brand, Tuttle, Avery, and Post roads were all flanked by cornfields. In the 1990s, Ohio still ranked as one of the nation's largest producers of corn. My buddy growing up used to heat his house with corn. They had a furnace in their basement, and every couple weeks or so, the corn guy would show up and dump down a chute into their basement, filling their basement with corn. Not corn on the cob, but just kernels of corn, as if they were dropping off wood pellets. And that's how they heated their house. Kind of corny, but I'm into it. We're going to read 3 more of these, and you're going to enjoy every minute of it. You're going to take it in and be willing to learn today. Isn't that exciting? The Osage orange trees on this site are remnants of a tree row typical of those which once extended for miles along the edge of farm fields in Dublin. The Osage orange, or Macula palmifera, is a member of the mulberry family, and it is native to the Midwestern North America. Its common name refers to the Osage Indians of Arkansas and Missouri, who used the dense orange wood to make bowls and tomahawks. Early farmers often planted the Osage orange as fencing along fields and property lines because its irregular, thorny branches quickly grew to form a secure boundary. These hedgerows also provide refuge for birds and small animals. The fruit of the Osage orange is the size of a softball and chartreuse green in color. With a bumpy surface texture like brains. It is widely known as a natural repellent of roaches, spiders, and other insects. That is, of course, referring to these trees. Okay, cool. A little bit of tree knowledge today. Trees are cool. Until a tornado knocks them onto your house. This, by the way, is in Dublin, Ohio, as I say. But I had to park way over there in front of like Starbucks and kind of just guesstimate where I could walk to get over, because this is kind of in the middle of a bunch of industrial office buildings, meaning like a bunch of factories run off of the offices around here. They're not like fancy investment banking offices, because those would be in a whole different part of Columbus. But anyways, let's read 2 more of these, because we're not done learning today, guys. So just zip your face. Let's try a nice little zoom in shot. See if I can hold that shot with some cars going by as I read to you. Hybridization revolutionized the production of corn in North America and worldwide in the 20th century. Cross-pollinating 2 distinct varieties of corn or other plants can result in hybrids that are stronger and more resistant to drought and disease, and that produce higher yields than their parent varieties. Native Americans and early settlers had experimented with many ways to improve corn by the first commercial hybrid corn, but the first commercial hybrid corn was not produced until 1918. The breakthrough came when American agricultural researchers crossed the offspring of 2 hybrid strains to create a double cross hybrid. Whoa. That's some pretty high-tech stuff for 1918, guys. Now, where the heck were you? They learned to control pollution. They learned to control pollination by placing paper bags on corn ears and tassels, removing them only to pollinate the plants by hand. Like most corn grown in the 1900s, a variety depicted here is a double-cross hybrid called Corn Belt Dent Corn, which has between 14 and 22 rows of yellow kernels and a small dimple or dent on the end of the kernels. The basic parents of dent corn and northern flint corn and southern gourd seed corn. Sam France, who farmed this site from 1935 to 1963, was well known for his development of hybrid corn seeds. He worked with the Ohio State University on corn hybridization projects and served on the United States Department of Agricultural Seed Advisory Committee. Whew! Kind of glad there's only one more to read, because that was a corny mouthful. But did you know there is such a thing as the United States Department of the United States Department of Agriculture Seed Advisory Committee? Now that's a committee I want to work on right there, baby. I kind of think these plaques went overboard. I'm into the science of it, but that's a lot to put on a plaque. The plaque should be like, hey, here's the dude who put this here, and here's why he did it, and here's some info about corn, and if you want to learn the science of corn and the history of corn affecting this area, then you should buy this book. And then just give the name of the book: The Duggalo Nation Book of Corn. I now present to you the very last plaque of information. Construction and development have transformed Dublin and its environs over the past 3 decades. Into 1960, much of the land around Dublin was agricultural. Sam and Eulalia France moved to this site in 1935 and lived here until 1963. Sam farmed the land, and Eulalia was always working with him. Both were from families that had been early settlers in the area. The France family came to Dublin in 1828, and Eulalia, last name Billingsley, was from a long line of farmers in Washington Township. The France farm was sold in 1968 Only a few years later, in the mid-1970s, 3 major projects marked the turning point in the history of land use in Dublin. The completion of the Northwest Link in the I-270 Outer Belt and the development of Muirfield Village and the Ashland Chemical Research Center set the stage for Dublin's metamorphosis from a farm village to a suburban residential community and corporate office center. See, told you. Wouldn't lie to you. Corporate office center. Dudes. Get your corn in a row, would you? Some of these feel smaller than the others, but once you get close, they're all exactly 6 feet. Kind of weird. I can see why no one's here, because it simply is just a weird place. Not exactly a place you come visit more than once, I don't think. Because once you've seen giant statues of corn, you've seen giant statues of corn. The question is, can you get a good thumbnail by me just doing this? We'll see. Time will tell. Now, let's get it moving. On to the next Dublin, Ohio Roadside Oddity. If only the natives would have ever known that in the future, corn would be enjoyed with butter and salt. Love it. Love it. 1 statue of a cob of corn would be cute. 3 together. Maybe put a picnic table. That would be cute. But an entire field. Now that's funny. I love it. Love it. And speaking of Native Americans, I bring you just a few miles down the road to this. An ancient Native American burial mound. Just a few moments, I'll go around to the front and we'll read up on some info. This is the Shrum Mound, S-H-R-U-M Mound. It's right here on the Scioto River, I believe. Maybe the Olentangy River. Let me look. 1 second. Let me bring you some better reporting here. You're on sacred property right now. This could be looked at as a mound of dirt with deceased people inside going back 2,000 years. That's why it's called by many a burial mound. But I have a question. Did the native people just use dirt to make a burial mound? Or is this their mausoleum? Is it a mound of dirt, or is it a building? Much like a pyramid. What do we do when we build a mausoleum? We use earth material, concrete, rock, granite, graphite, etc., and we build an above ground. See how above ground it is? Memorial for the respect we're paying to the deceased. Well, what material did these people use 2,000 years ago? The reason I say 2,000 is because that's what it said on the Google. pertaining to this particular place? Well, I think they used dirt. So did they build a mound, a burial mound, or did they build their mausoleum in the way that they chose? Is this a building in a way? Here's one thing I noticed, obviously. People have been up here and been to the top, screwing around, which I'm pretty sure is totally fine as far as current day authorities go. But it shouldn't be. I don't have kids, but if I did, they would be strictly forbidden to go up there. Because it's rude. It's rude as fuck, actually. Because this is not a hill. This is a mausoleum for people, human beings, 2,000 years ago, laid to rest. Here's the river I was talking about. In just a moment, I will confirm to you specifically what this river is. I believe... Okay, I already forgot what it is. What I said it was a second ago. According to the Google, the body of water you're seeing is some lake. I was calling it a river emphatically because last night, when researching these spots, I would have bet 1,000 that I was looking at a portion of a long river. And I'm still not sure that I ain't, so I'll look more into that and get back to yous. "2,000 years ago, imagine life before the Europeans colonized over here or even thought about it. Imagine it.
Then together, and Tom was like, when we were like 4, he said, I remember getting to this girl, and I remember these pictures.
As you saw on the sign, we are nestled in beside the Scioto River. And we saw this is one of the ancient burial mounds of the Adena people, at least as far as we know. Anthropologists only know what they think they know. Archaeologists find what they think they're finding. But you wasn't there 2,000 years ago or 1,000 AD, whichever one you want to go with. The sign says one thing. I believe Dr. Google may say another. I'm sure there are really good books that'll clear it up. That sign, as you saw, the other sign says, do not climb on this. And the reason I say this butt crack is from people climbing on it is because you can go online and look at pictures on Google Maps of people climbing on this, which is BS. But anyway, danger. Keep out. Probably a sheer drop off over there. So that was just a few miles down the road from the field of corn cobs. A very Native American corny day today. I do like graves, mausoleums, ancient buildings such as this. It's exactly what it is. I find them to be great places of peace. Let's go look at one last thing before we hang it up. We'll see what you think about this last thing. I believe, as far as I know, this last thing is a little more modern times. But come here. Place your hand on history. Thousands of years ago history. That sign also said that there's artifacts in here. And bones. Means bodies laid to rest. And all kinds of stuff. To memorialize them. And that's not done by anybody recently. That took place thousands of years ago. By them doing that for their purposes. On to the next one. Let's see what we got. Speaking of corn, there sure has been a lot of cornstruction I've been driving around today. Man, that was a corny joke. And what is that weird sphere off in the distance? Let's go take a look. Before we go in and introduce ourselves and have a cup of coffee, let's walk through their basement. When I saw this place online, I had no idea it had a basement. And we just walked under it. Apparently this is some kind of waterway, actually, because it's very wet. Very river rock like, and this is some dried out storm reservoir, storm water res. Let's go back in which we came. I'm pretty sure that's a little tiny statue of an upside down person and there's their feet sticking up. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm looking at. Let's go inside and ask. There is, if you can't make it out in the camera, I'll go ahead and tell you. That is a curled up dog asleep right there. Not to be confused with the dangling cat. You ever just stop and look at something and ask yourself, what are we even looking at? There's also even sketchy holes in the floor. So when you and I were walking through the basement, we were being spied on. watch house was designed and situated on its site so that it would reveal different aspects of itself slowly as the viewer moves toward the artwork. Artist Todd Slaughter intended the earthen mound and the house as a contemplative place for individuals and small groups, and as a counterpoint to the group activities of the Kaufman Recreation Center located on the opposite side of the wooden Indian Run stream which runs between the two. When approached the Kaufman Park Recreation Center entrance from Post Road, visitors first become aware of the 12-foot blackened copper sphere which rises from behind the rim of the 220-inch diameter circle mound. You can read more about it at visit dublinohio.com, baby. The only reason I stopped reading is because the article is very, very long. And that is for you to enjoy. I think there's a random pepper up there, a spoon, I don't even know what we're looking at. Different stuff. I'm surprised people don't leave their own left behind stuff here. Like why, if this is a place for that, why don't people do that? I'm just curious. I just now noticed this. I'll let you pause and read that if you wish. Pretty cool. Roadside oddity. So thank you for joining me here today. I thought I would just show you 3 odd roadside oddities that you probably didn't even know existed right here in the greatest place on earth, Dublin, Ohio. So let me know where I can point my camera next that will make for good content here for everyone else. Let me know in the comments and I'll check it out. More detail helps. There's some kind of path. Want to go down there? We'll do that next time. Maybe, if you're good. So thanks for joining me. This, of course, was just another excuse for me to dabble in what I've been doing for now 30 years. My passion of creating media art. As you know, I'm trying to merge into the travel vlog genre here on the nation. But I can't go fully into it because then I would have everything else I'm trying to do at the same time. So we're going to just put them all together. I think the nation has been one of the very few social media channels where you'll always find a variety bag of ticklers. Try to cross the street here, giving my outro without getting run down, dude. Some people want to have me on their podcast or video project. They can do that by firing off one of those emails. I'm yelling because it's windy. I don't know how much you can hear me. DuggaloNation@gmail.com. Or maybe you want to be right here beside me, live and in the flesh. Just email me. That's it. Have a good one. If you want to help me, you can do so by sharing this video. And if you don't, then I'm sorry to tell you, you're a dud.